Nice to see you again for another amp dyno video, and today's dyno video features a Rockford Fosgate Punch 301X, which is a 4-channel amplifier. This amp is rated 40 watts per channel into a form load of continuous power with low THD measured at 14.4 volts by the manufacturer. And the amplifier features some filters. Here you can see some switches: low pass, high pass, all pass. So if you have low pass, it's a fixed filter of 80 Hz, and if you set it to high pass, you have also a fixed filter of 120 Hz with a slope of 24 dB. Let's have a look at the main board. Here you can see some components, BIOS ports where you can adjust the idle current, and also some SMD components and the driver transistors. And here are the rail caps, and they have a capacity of 3300 microfarads each. It's a 4-channel amp, as I mentioned before, and let's see what this little amplifier can put out on the amp dyno. I made an upgrade to my setup for the dyno. I use extremely thick wires. That's 67 square millimeters and is from Rockford. It's called Superflex competition cable. I think I will have less voltage drop. I have all channels loaded. That means in the fronts I have an 8 ohm load bridge connected, and to the rears also 8 ohm load bridged mono connected. So we can measure 4 ohms per channel. I start with continuous power test, 1 kilohertz, all 4 channels driven. Take a single shot, 47.2 volts. That's around 142 watts, bridged mono 8 ohms. That means 71 watts per channel into a form load of continuous output power, all 4 channels driven. And the same test, continuous power, 4 ohms, all 4 channels driven, but this time with 50 Hz. Take a screenshot. So my scope says maximum voltage 46.4 volts. Let's check it out. I have 45.6 volts. I have measured 133 watts. That's 66.5 watts into a 4 ohm load of continuous power, all 4 channels driven with 50 Hz. And now let's check out how many amps the amplifier pulls out of the power supply. I have 30.4 amps. The efficiency is around 68%. So I just wanted to start the dynamic power test, but I found out that there is no dynamic headroom. It doesn't matter if I have 20 cycles, 8 cycles, or just 1 cycle. I have always the same output voltage of 47.2 volts. Let's jump to the next test with a 4 ohm load bridged. That means 2 ohms per channel, all 4 channels driven. 1 kilohertz. Single shot. And the scope says we have a maximum voltage of 41.6 volts. I check this, and it's true, 41.6 volts. We have an output power of 111 watts of continuous power, 1 kilohertz per channel. 52.1 amps. With all channels loaded into a 2 ohm load, the amplifier has still an efficiency of 62.8%. Continuous power test with 50 Hz. Single shot. My scope says I have a maximum voltage of 40 volts. Let's double check it. Let's calculate with 39.6 volts. With 50 Hz we still have 100.5 watts per channel into a 2 ohm load, all 4 channels driven. Dynamic power test, 2 ohms per channel, 1 kilohertz, 20 cycles. All cycles at the same voltage level, that's great. I go to the last cycle and see if I have some signs of clipping. But that doesn't look too bad. Yes, I think we can use this. And the scope says we have a maximum voltage of 42.4 volts. Let's take 42 volts. With 20 cycles I just reached 2 watts more. That's 113 watts per channel into a 2 ohm load, all 4 channels driven. I skipped the 8 cycle test because the output power was the same value like the test with 20 cycles, so I just test with 1 cycle, and to be honest this doesn't look very good, so I take just the top of it. That's the maximum voltage. Scope says 43.2. It's clipped 42.8 volts. Also this value is not usable for me because there's no increase in output power, maybe 1 watt or 2 watts. So this amplifier doesn't have dynamic headroom. I noticed it at several smaller 4-channel amplifiers that there isn't any dynamic headroom, or just a slight amount of dynamic headroom. I think the reason is if you have all 4 channels loaded, the power supply is too weak to produce some peak dynamics. This video is also user supported. This amp has been sent to me by a nice subscriber. Thank you very much for your endless support. Let's start with a sound check of the Punch 301X. Thank you very much for watching. See you on the next video. Bye bye.